What up? What up? What up? Good morning, everybody. Tried something a little new there. I don't know if the music came in through the speakers better that way. I'm not 100% sure, but I got this little program now called Loopback, which, as you can see, is a internal routing system where I can route programs directly to input and output channels, also monitoring channels. So very cool little bit of wiring. It looks like a little spaghetti here, but it allows the seamless virtual flow of signal. I'm not quite sure why I was muted there for a moment, but what I was saying is I got this cool new program called Loopback. Hello. Yeah, does it seem a little loud? Does it seem a little loud? Who's my friend with the name iPhone? Is this you, Andrew? Who is this? Let's see.
It's Trey.
Oh, Trey, what up? Okay. Just trying to take again attendance. So I'm just going to rename you so I can say it's Trey. There we go. And you can hear me now, obviously. So, like I was saying before, I figured out my mic was muted because I was routing today's music through this program called Loopback. It's a cool little virtual program that allows me to do internal routing from program to program. So I was testing that out today. Hopefully you guys heard the opening music today as well as you should have. If not, no big deal. I'll go back to the regular speaker tomorrow. All right, updates for the 9 or 10 of you that are in the Zoom today to start off the day. I am, however, going to quickly jump over to the Instagram live page just to make sure we collect our fellow people who are probably still in bed or God knows what they're doing and they forgot that there's a lesson going on. So there we go. All right, so here's the deal for today. A couple things I posted after class yesterday. So let's take a look at those. Obviously, you know you have your assignment that's due on Friday. That's watching 15-minute blocks of the master class for Logic. So take a look at that and record your information. And like I said, even more importantly, what you're doing is you're writing down questions that we can answer sometime next week. So yeah, definitely go in and look at that. And make sure you do that by Friday. Like I said, there's still a lot of holes in my grade book of assignments that were, now almost 2 weeks old. So please make sure you are doing the work. If you are not doing the work, it's going to catch up with you and you're going to have a bad time. If you pizza instead of French fry, you're going to have a bad time. That's just what happens. All right, so I posted 3 different scholarships. Now, a couple things. Some of these scholarships have very specific requirements and criteria, so please read it carefully before you start filling it out. I also handed out hard copies of these in class, let's say a month ago, or maybe even more so. So the Laverty Scholarship, the FAIR Scholarship, and the Actia Scholarship is all just free money sitting on the table. All you have to do is fill it out and send it back to me, and I'll forward it on to our guidance department who will submit it for you. Free money. Again, what else are you doing that you can't just sit for a few minutes and fill these applications out and send them back to me, honestly, when it has the ability to earn money towards your education, money that you don't have to spend, money that's back in your pocket once you graduate college that you never spent in the first place. Sometimes they literally just cut you a check. I think the Laverty Scholarship goes towards your school, but I think something like the Actia Scholarship, they literally just give you a check. They hand you over a check for $500 or $1,000. They hope it goes to education. So fill out your scholarships, make sure you check the criteria, and make sure you know that you can qualify for them. Again, just read it through, fill it out, send it in, free money. And all the deadlines, and why I posted them was all the deadlines have been extended for these. So just make sure that you guys are going on and filling those out. If in fact you qualify, it could mean a lot of money for you. towards your education. Anyway, I put today we will learn Ultrabeat Drum Sequencer and Varispeed. Yes, we will. And of course, I put the notes up like I promised you. I'm getting a little better with that. I'm finding the images faster now, and it's now I'm way more inept to or adapted to Google Classroom. I'm posting it a little early so you guys have something to go off of for the quiz on Friday. And yes, there is another quiz on Friday. And as I mentioned to you, I have it in my arsenal here, locked, stock, and ready and scheduled for Friday at 10:20 to be released. I know last week the test actually unleashed itself like 3 minutes late. And a lot of you sent in a message like, where's the link? Where's the link? Where's the link? And then all of a sudden it magically appeared. It took a few minutes for some reason for the test to finally make itself available to you. So just give it a few minutes on Friday. And I'll mention that again Friday when we go into our 20-minute intro before we take the test. And then you can see I already have stuff lock, stock, and ready to go for next week's project. So yeah, I mean, this is all still required. This is things you have to do. And very quickly, I'm going to click into the grades and just, not to show everyone people's names and grades, but I'll just do this, make it much easier for you. You can see there is a lot of grades missing. A lot of people haven't been doing the work. A lot of people still haven't taken the test. And that could be a real problem because you will be held accountable and there is no getting around it. Like, oh, I thought I did that. No, you didn't do it. You have to do it. There's no getting around it. And if you were someone even close to a 70 or less, or let's say 75 or less, if you fail this quarter, you could be failing for the year and they're going to hold you responsible because we've done everything we have to do to make sure you're aware of it, to make sure you know how to do it. I've been here every day, all day to field questions about the work. So my assumption is that if you're not asking questions or you're not having trouble or you're not saying anything, you know about it and you can do it. So highly recommend that you go through this and make sure you're getting the work done at a very rapid pace. Like I said, there are right now 3 different projects that are late. There is another project due Friday, and there'll be another project coming out on Monday. So don't bury yourself and come back in May or June whenever we're back in school and go, I didn't know, can I hand it in now? Well, now you had the time then, and now you don't have the time now when everyone that was cooped up for months wants to get out and go, and now you can't. You have to stay cooped up, making up all the work that you should have done while you were cooped up. Oh, it's exhausting sometimes, but just let you know. Of course, I'm going to end. Morning, Chef. So I'm going to get off the Instagram really quick because I have to concentrate on the class. So everyone enjoy. Denise, what up? See you later. Ending now. Hopefully some people got the, there you go. Some people got the, I guess the, what do you call those, announcements or notifications that we were live on Instagram, and then you go, oh crap, I gotta tune into my class this week. Yep, you sure do. One last time, scholarship information. We just let a few more people in. Scholarship information is here. All deadlines have been extended. And of course, the notes for this week are gonna be right in here. So make sure you look at it. In addition to that, as you well know, scroll down to our YouTube page. You know that, excuse me, that all the notes every day are being recorded, and those lessons are going up on YouTube shortly after. It looks like last week's lessons people are looking at, but this week, one person viewed 2 days. So, or just one person looked at yesterday's and Monday's notes. But make sure you guys do that in order to get full credit and to get a good grade on your quiz and to, no, it's not a requirement, no, but it definitely is something that's going to help you study for the test on Friday. And there is the project that's due Friday. Again, you're watching the master class video, part 1, and you are commenting and summarizing. And the biggest part of that to me would be the question asking. So then we can go through it and actually do some of those lessons that you may be curious about right here on the live lessons on the computer in front of you sometime next week or sometime the week after. Okie dokie, let's do some work. Any questions before we begin about any of the projects or anything else that's coming in, going out, anything at all? Ask now or forever hold your peace. Okie dokie. Let's see here. Now I'm going to try my loopback thing really quick. But unfortunately then it takes away from my voice. So I don't know if I really want to do that. Not a big deal, but let's see. I mean, I'm assuming you guys can hear it out of the speakers and back into the microphone, right? I mean, you guys could hear the music. We did that yesterday. So yeah, like I said, I'm almost assuming you guys can hear those sounds, whether it be outputting through Zoom or whether it be coming out of my speakers and into the microphone back to you. So let's do some stuff, shall we? I'm just admitting some more people, a couple late comers to the party, but appreciative that everyone shows up here every day. Like I said, I am taking attendance through the Zoom app, that everyone shows up to class. And we try to delay actually starting class until 10:15. You know how people are getting up, getting out, and getting themselves ready. All right. So I promised you today talking about Ultrabeat and Varispeed. Welcome, everybody. Hi, how are you? Like I said, yeah, we're going to learn Varispeed today and a little bit of the Ultrabeat. So let's get into it. The first thing I really need to do is actually have Varispeed show up or be active up here in my toolbar. Now, you remember 2 weeks ago when we started looking over the entire software and the pieces and the parts, and now that you look at it, you can actually be fairly familiar with what you're seeing here. If you right-click up here on the menu, you can customize your toolbar. When you customize your toolbar, you could be given the opportunity to pop in Varispeed. So let's take a look at what is here. We know the library and all that other stuff, a master volume switch, which actually I'm going to take out. That was that thing right there. Why am I taking it out? Well, because I kind of want to put in some speed-based, I guess, trigger or toggle or whatever you want to say. We actually did this low latency mode last week. That was important. That's basically relieving the computer of processing things for the time being and allowing the echo that would happen when recording. So I usually kind of put that one in there. Auto punch is sometimes one that I like to pop in there as well. And then of course, like I was saying to you, Varispeed is another one that I want. So the problem right here is Varispeed is grayed out. Let's see if changing it into beats and time have anything to do with it. No, not really. So how do I unlock this area here where I want to get into my Varispeed? Well, thank you very much for asking that question. I'm going to go into the where is it? The giant, not beats display. Where the heck is it? Where it gives me everything. Where's my custom? There we go. That's better. That's what I like to see. All the goodness that is available here to us. Again, as you can see, even though I open that, now that I have a very, very large area to work with, now I can actually go in and click on my Varispeed. So the difference was, just so you see this, that when I use beats or when I use one of these preset displays like beats and time, this all gets grayed out. Varispeed only becomes active when I'm in custom mode, and then I can go ahead and pop in Varispeed, and you can see it right here pop into the middle of the display. So what is Varispeed? That's really the big question most of you may ask. Varispeed is our ability to speed up or slow down based on a lot of different principles. Let's go into Varispeed for a moment and see what the options are. So right now I am in what we call speed only, which just means we're going to speed up the project without changing pitch. All right. So speed up the project without changing pitch. We really don't need Varispeed for that. You do understand that, right? You don't need Varispeed to do it that way. Let me show you why. All right, let's go back into customizing our toolbar. Let's go into just standard project beats and time. All right, and we'll go into here. So far, so good. Great. We know that we can speed up or slow down simply by changing the BPM of a project. And when I say speed up or slow down by the BPM of a project, what I'm referring to is the ability to speed up MIDI without changing its pitch. This is a key component to and by the way, when I did that, when I got rid of the display, can you now see that there is a plus or minus Varispeed option here? Oh yeah, very cool, right? So I had to initially go into custom. I had to initially activate it. Then once I go back into my other view, it becomes go back into project beats and time, and now it becomes an actual icon over here on the right side. That's something of a bit of a change in this latest version of Logic Pro. Not a big deal. Either way, we can kind of activate and change Varispeed. But let me go backwards again. So we know if we just have MIDI in a project, and just to play the project again so you can hear the speed, we know we can change the entire speed of the project simply by changing the tempo. Let's do at 90. Okay, so I set it to 90. Let's take a listen now. We can hear that the entire project slowed down. And likewise, whoops, what just happened? Nope, not what I wanted. I hit a quick key for the view, and that is what shifted everything out. Let me go backwards a little bit. There we go. If I go into my tempo, and I'm getting blocked here by the Zoom lesson, 160 is my new tempo here. So I can change speed without really using Varispeed. We don't need Varispeed to do that. We don't. But Varispeed provides us with something else that we may not have. So let's take a look at that for a moment. All right, I'm gonna go into speed only, which is basically what we just did. We just changed the BPM. By the way, that can also be changed here when you're in your custom view or when you're in any other view. Go back to 120 for a moment. And this was the original speed of the project. Okay, so that's really speed only. Speed only is just changing the speed of the project. No pitch, no anything. But Varispeed allows us to change the pitch and speed of voice and or audio as well. So let me show you this. I'm going to start a new audio track. No input. No, I want an input. Wow, that's not very nice. I have to now change my input device because I'm messing around with loopback a little bit and it's kind of screwing up my settings. Now, what am I doing here? Where's my input? There it is. Input 1 and 2. There we go. Hello. Now we're talking. Okay, so also what I'm going to do here is bring back, sorry, I got to hide. This Zoom thing is really getting to me now. It's in the way. Let's go into record here for a second. Voice is happening at the rate in which speed happens. Isn't that great? Okay, so obviously my microphone is open with my speakers open, so you're going to hear the click kind of back in there. I'll try it one more time just because I don't want any of the excess sound to repeat itself in my vocal recording. One more time, here we go. Voice is happening while we record here in Logic. And I did it again. I left the speakers open like a moron, but that's fine. Don't worry about it. All right. So let's play it back. Let's hear it. Voice is happening while we record here in Logic. Okay, so you get the idea, right? Now, let's try changing speed only with a piece of audio in my project. Okay, let's see what happens if I jump this up to 160. All right. Well, what happened here? It looks like the audio got longer. But if you're looking at it like that, you're kind of in the wrong perspective. What I really did was I made the MIDI faster. The audio stayed the same. And that change actually looked like the audio got dragged out, but it didn't. Now pay close attention to when I do the playback here. You're going to notice the voice will still sound the same. Same speed at 120 with the clicks, but the MIDI has changed. And this is speed only. So here we go. Voice is happening while we record here in the audio. And you can see it's all a mess now because it's all out of sync. The speed of the MIDI changed. We sped up MIDI notes. That's easy. We did not speed up the audio. So in order to do that, Varispeed actually allows us this ability. So we're going to go ahead and go into Varispeed. We're going to go speed and pitch. We're going to go ahead and change to 160. Oh, I did it again. We're going to go ahead and change to 160. It looks like the pitch of my voice changed again. Let's see what happens. Voice is happening while we record. And again, we made something happen that shouldn't have happened. The MIDI sped up, but of course, the audio didn't. So how can we kind of get the audio to move with it? Well, let's look at the last one, by the way, before we get into that. Let's go into our Varispeed mode, and this says Varispeed and MIDI, okay? Again, Varispeed and MIDI options are active. Let's jump into a 160 and enter. It looks like the same exact thing has happened again. Let's take a look. Voice is happening while we record. And it's just a mess. What is going on? Well, the key here is, let's go back to both of these two are real Varispeed settings. Speed and pitch for a moment. Now below, you notice I've never really changed anything here. And this is the key, being able to change something by a percentage. I'm not going to go in and change the BPM here. I'm going to change the entire Varispeed of the project through the Varispeed option. In this case, I'm going to increase it by 30%. Now you can see this is active. It's orange. It's following this 120. Let's take a listen and see what happens. Voice is happening while we record here in the audio. Now I sound like one of the Oompa Loompas. Let's slow it down. Let's go the opposite direction, negative 30%. Here it is. Voice is happening while we record here in the audio. All right, so you kind of get the idea here that just having it on speed only is really just changing speed. And that also is a cool thing. We could actually change the speed by 30% without changing the pitch. The one we were on here did change the pitch, as you can see. But if we just do speed only, let's see what that sounds like. No pitch change, just speed change. Voice is happening while we record here in the audio. Cool. So I was able to change the speed of my project without changing the pitch. I wasn't solely relying on the BPM of a project. I was actually using the Varispeed real-time effect to get my result. All right, let's go back. Ooh, put my audio back in there. Let's go back and do Varispeed with MIDI. Now let's hear it. Voice is happening while we record here in the audio. So you see what I'm doing here. I have a few different options. One changes speed, one changes speed and pitch with audio, and one changes speed and pitch with MIDI as well included. So those are my three Varispeed options. Speed only, speed and pitch. So speed has to do with MIDI slowing down and pitch has to do with the audio slowing down with the pitch. And then Varispeed with MIDI pulls everything together, locks it into place, and slows it down or speeds it up. And a lot of times I'm not going to be using 30% as a change, maybe just 5%. Because once you start going over like 20 or 30%, you can hear there's like little artifacts, digital things going on, almost like a bee buzzing. That's not fun. You don't want that in your project. So Varispeed isn't going to be used to this very large extent. It's going to be used in little bits and pieces in order to get the final result you're looking for. One more time, here it is with a 5% change in speed and MIDI.
Voice is happening while we record here in the
And it actually sounds pretty good at 5%. It's not all that far off. I'm gonna just drop this back to 0% here. You can kind of see it's still active, but the BPM kind of jumped away because there's really no change. And if I wanted to go over into the BPM, I can still do that. I can still go over to 60 on BPM. Again, it looks like we did before. The audio sounds like it's sped up, but it's not. It's really the MIDI that's slowed down.
voice is happening.
So there's a bunch of ways you can manipulate how speed works within a project. That's kind of what we're going with here. Let me just delete this track for now. We have this crazy ability, as we know, when we just have a MIDI project, to be able to change speed, no problem. But when we start including elements of audio, now when we change MIDI speed, things don't sync up right anymore. So this is one way that you can allow both audio and MIDI to speed up or slow down within your project without having to make big drastic changes or re-recording. That is not fun. And I know, but because my technology was jumping in and out in here, that it seemed a little convoluted. So if anybody has a question about this, please ask it again, because I'll do that one more time really fast. It only took about 12 minutes to do. So I have no problem doing it at double speed this time, if in fact you want to see it again.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's more like, can you change the speed of a specific part, not like the whole project?
Yeah, 100%. When we get into, and we talked a little bit about flex time, Vince, we can do that to individual clips. So we can actually change a clip using flex. There's another way you can actually go in and change audio using the inspector, and you can actually quantize audio. You can have it detect transients and have those transients snap to grid lines. That will change the speed or the initial performance to a better performance. When we get into advanced MIDI, which we will either next week or the following week, I'm going to show you how to take audio just by clapping my hands and set it and change its speed without using flex time, with using quantization to do it. So yeah, there's a number of different ways to change speed of individual clips, entire tracks, and in this case, the entire project. I like to start big. I like to say, here's how you do the whole project. And then we'll work our way into a very specific area like a clip. Now, we already know from yesterday's lesson that we can speed up or slow down MIDI clips very easily. You guys remember this? That if I went into a MIDI clip and I selected all the notes in that MIDI clip, I can use the MIDI transform to double speed it. Remember that from yesterday? So very cool way of doing it just within the clip for MIDI. Then the question becomes, well, how do I do it within the clip for audio? And we'll get to that point. It's just going to take a couple of times through to do that. Any other questions about Varispeed right now?
If you wouldn't mind, would you show the three differences again?
Sure. Let me just re-record a piece of audio, and that way you can get an idea. I just have to minimize all my views here really fast because they're just all in the way. I don't think you guys can see the Zoom interface that I'm looking at. So I have to move my windows down to get away from the bars that drop down when I go near them. And then this one also is just always in the way, which I'm dragging down here. All right, so let's record something. I'm going to mute my speaker for a second. And this one I'm going to do my click in. I can't hear the click when I'm muted. Like I said, I'm pretty far off when I don't hear it back, but
I can't hear
short on that one.
the click when I'm muted.
Well, not too bad, not having anything to go off of. So there you go. So this is just your normal recording. And if I wanted to change, so Vince, you ready? I'm going to go through them fairly quickly here. If I wanted to just speed up MIDI, I go into my BPM. I type in 160. And there it is. Now I'm faster in the MIDI, but this remained the same. Although it looked like it stretched out, it's not. It's just this all squeezed in. So here's what that sounds like. This is just changing BPM of the project.
I can't hear the click.
So you see how that works, all right? Now, if we want these to all gel together and change in unison, we have to use Varispeed. Just using BPM will only work for MIDI. But if I have audio elements in my project, I have to use Varispeed. So I'm going to come in and activate Varispeed again. To do that, you do have to customize. You do have to activate it here inside of the LCD. And so having it there and not having it there is a big difference. So make sure you have it activated, and then you can hit OK. And then we have 3 different options in Varispeed. Speed only, Varispeed with speed and pitch, and Varispeed with MIDI. Speed only literally just changes the speed of everything. So I'm going to go in and do like a percentage change. Let's say plus 30%. Okay. So let's hear what that sounds like. This is the speed of the entire project.
I can't hear the click when I'm muted.
And you can see it actually did change and made it faster. And then likewise, if I go backwards, here's 30% in the negative realm.
I can't hear.
So everything slowed down, correct? But the pitch didn't change. That's what I'm talking about. If I just did a speed only change, all I'm doing is changing speed. I'm changing the speed of the MIDI and I'm changing the speed of the audio, but I am not changing the pitch. But if you wanted to change the pitch, let's do that. Speed and pitch, here it is. And instead of doing 30%, let's just do 6% change. So here's a 6% speed and pitch change for both MIDI and audio.
I can't hear the click when I'm muted.
Cool. I'll do a -1 just so you hear the difference. -6. So obviously a 12% change.
I can't hear the click when I'm muted.
So we are changing speed and pitch of the elements, but we are keeping them in unison, in time with each other. The last option was Varispeed and MIDI. And this one I'll do a 10%. Oh, God, I hate when I do that. This one I'll do a 10% change. Go back to my custom look. This one I'll do a 10% change from -10. Okay. And I'll make sure that I'll be inside of the right speed. So Varispeed and MIDI. So here's your Varispeed and MIDI change.
I can't hear the click.
All right, and now here's your positive 10% change, both audio and MIDI, both speed and pitch.
I can't hear the click.
So those are the 3 modes. Either I'm changing just speed, I'm changing speed and the pitch of audio, or I'm changing the speed and pitch of everything. That's the way it works in those 3 modes. So yeah, I cut it down to 7 minutes. What else? What else do you want to know about Varispeed? Now here's the deal. These changes in Varispeed aren't made until you're done. You have all your audio locked in. You don't make changes in the middle of a project. You can't make changes to just one clip with this particular process. So if you make a change in an area of the verse and you're like, oh, this sounds good, you better go back and listen to that chorus again and make sure it still sounds good. You know, you're not making these Varispeed changes for a section. You're making them for the entire project. I want to make sure you understand that. This is the entire project changing speed, pitch, or pitch of everything. Good? Good? Those are the types of questions that'll be on the quiz on Friday. Speed with no pitch changes. Varispeed with speed of the MIDI and speed of the audio with a pitch change. And then the last one is speed and pitch for everything. It's in the notes. Obviously, the notes that I put up on the Google Classroom will have it all laid out for you. But just practically speaking, to know how to use it, that's something you'll have to figure out. Okay, moving on. Let's do some fun stuff here. I'm going to go ahead and delete this audio track because right now we're not going to be worrying about Varispeed or anything audio related actually at all. We're actually going to do a little bit of Ultrabeat today. In fact, now that I said that, I should have my keyboard plugged in, which I'm going to do literally right now while I'm talking to you. So back in the day, let's say Logic 4. Yes, version 4 of Logic. They integrated a sequencer into Logic. And this is one of the first versions I worked with. This is one of the first things that I became very familiar with. And obviously in early Logic 8 and Logic 9 certification tests, this was a big deal because they actually made huge improvements on this original piece of integrated software that made a big difference to electronic music composers. So let's add a new software instrument track to this and take a look at what Ultrabeat is. Now, it can be activated through using one of the patches here in the library. You can find it there, but unless you're super familiar with which one of these actually can get you to Ultrabeat, my recommendation is you jump through the MIDI input. So hold on, let me get something really fast here. So for instance, the drum kit that pops up here, this is technically not part of Ultrabeat. This is part of the drum kit designer. Well, I want Ultrabeat. Ultrabeat is actually down here under drum synth. Again, this is one of the many free software generating musical instruments that come with Logic. It is one of the OG, triple OGs of Logic. All right, so Ultrabeat drum synth. So I found it quickly by just activating any patch, but then changing that patch into Ultrabeat. You don't have to go through it that way. You can just literally go in and activate from the settings for what it is. All right, so you could find it in that menu, no problem. But for me, it's sometimes quicker just to grab a patch and then change it over to Ultrabeat. So we're going to do a stereo Ultrabeat. And here it is. As I always say, it looks like the front chest piece of Tony Stark's Iron Man Mach 84. Mark 84, I don't say well, Mach. So check this thing out. So this is a sequencer. It is a software instrument generator. It has a lot of sounds built within it. It generates a lot of sounds, and it also has an entire effect patch bay in here. Things like low frequency oscillators, we have phase scopes, we have filtering that goes on here and enveloping. There's additional stuff that each preset will have and the settings that it'll have that can change the sound. But for us, it just literally is an electronic drum kit. All right. If I wanted to change the sounds, you can actually go right into the presets like we did with a like an EQ or compressor, and then just pick out like drum banks. And there's actually a tutorial kit, which is fun, but it's annoying because all the things pop up every 2 seconds. So we could pick, I mean, all of these that do appear in the patches or in the library are what Ultrabeat handles. So if we were able to find a hip hop slide kit in the library, you would know that it is part of Ultrabeat. But that's why I said before that if you don't know what drum kits are part of Ultrabeat, it'd be kind of a pain to hunt and peck and try to find an Ultrabeat kit. It's easier just to select any drum kit and then change it over to Ultrabeat, and now you can find what you're looking for. I do like the hip hop heavy kit. That's one of my favorites. Right? Fun. So this one has a lot of different instruments. And I'm only in, what, a small 2-octave range, you know, and I can octave up. Right? So when we can octave up even further. Fun, right? So that's kind of a split keyboard, if you will. Some of the percussion instruments, like the kick and the snare and the hi-hat and all that, are on the low end. And then up in the higher end is some of the hits, as they call them. Kind of like an 808 a little bit, but it's a little more tonal. So then you can, you know, with your left hand, scratch out some sort of beat, and with your right hand, you can do some tonal. So let's take a look at what's going on in here. All right, so this is the biggest part of this. I'm not going to touch anything. I know you probably don't see me on camera, but I'm just going to push play on my project. So you can hear there's no Ultrabeat in there, right? There's nothing in there. But when I activate the sequencer, watch what happens. Pretty cool, right? All I did was turn the sequencer on, and it took that hip-hop heavy kit. Oop, got active out. It actually had a pattern already built into it, and it matched the project's BPM perfectly. So it's a cool way of just dropping in like some sort of electronic drum kit to the entire mix. Again, if I turn it off and I push play, I'm back to my original. But if I turn it back on, now my drum kit follows the BPM, follows my project, and you can hear it gets a lot more lively, right? Just the way the drum kit is built and what's going on behind the scenes. So what I want you to see, though, is that even though I have it active, all I'm doing is playing it. There's no actual audio or MIDI clips dropping on this track. Here. There's nothing there. So how do I go in and edit this? How do I make sure that this pattern is what I want? Well, there's a couple of different ways, all right? There's your ability to actually go in and change the pattern. Some of that can be done down here at the bottom. So these are the on-off switches for each drum hit. And then this is the velocity or the volume, kind of like what we saw over in the MIDI editor. Or you can look at it like this, like a sequencer. And anyone that works with old programs like Reason, anyone that works with FL Studio, you know it's just a matter of dots and on and off switches. So you can actually change the pattern up here a little bit, add like a second or third closed hi-hat to every, so often. It sounds like this when you do that. Right? So you can change up and vary the patterns as much as you want. You could think of it as this, like each of these are MIDI notes. Even though they look like on and off switches, they really are MIDI notes. Now, as much as I like this, I'm not a big sequencer fan. I like to edit things in MIDI. That is like my bread and butter, is getting into this part of the project, going down in the MIDI editor and being able to change my MIDI notes like we did yesterday, using variation, using different techniques of velocity changes, using humanizing, randomizing pitches, all sorts of stuff. So how do I get this pattern that I have into this project? Well, that is where it becomes a little crazy. Literally down here at the very bottom where it says pattern, there's this little area, this little like gripped button that if you hold your mouse on it, it says drag to arrange window. Well, yes, please. I'd like to drag it to the arrange window, and here I go. Click on it, hold it, drag it in, boom. I got myself my pattern, my MIDI pattern inside of Logic. Now that I have it there, you can see it's only a 2-bar loop. I actually can re-loop it now. Oop, get back on there, get back on there. Is 4 bars. I can do 6, I can do 8, and then I can hit Control L to turn them into real ones. I can get rid of every second one if I didn't want that. Let's hear what I did here. Sorry, what I meant to do is turn off the kit because that'll just keep playing if you don't turn it off. Try that one more time. Cool, I like it there. So you know what? I'm not even gonna use it at the beginning. I think it's cool to start off with it not there. And let's see how it plays out as it goes through the project, all right? And by the way, we are now increasing the speed of this by 10%. We still have Varispeed on. I'm gonna have it kick in here at the end for the final finale. So we'll do that. So check this out. I had this pattern here that was created by Ultrabeat for me. Let me take this crescendo part that I did over in the kit, copy it by holding down Option and dragging it down here, and see what happens. I'm gonna generate Ultrabeat sounds with a pattern that I created with an acoustic drum kit. Cool. It actually helped emphasize that whole part. Now, I'm not sure I really like Ultrabeat sound for those first 3 things, so I'll just trim those back, and let's just have Ultrabeat take care of the crescendo for me. And then we can get back into the Ultrabeat part that we did over here. So this was a really cool way of kind of using a little bit of each skill that we've worked with over the last few weeks. Where'd my Ultrabeat window go? I'll just bring it back over here. There it is. And again, we don't have to necessarily keep this pattern. We could change the pattern up a little bit. Let me activate this again. We're going to delete all this really fast. I don't need all that. I'm just messing around. All right, let's go in and change the pattern up a little bit, right? We can go in and still using the heavy kit. Going over here for a second. Let's change some things up. Let's do a little modding. Let's crank up the oscillator. Let's activate and free up the LFO. And then let's change my envelope up a little bit. See what it sounds like when I turn it on. Cool. Weird little sound there. Like that. I don't know what I did to that. I think that was just for the hi-hat. It actually complements the violins a lot, so that's pretty cool. I'm gonna go back into my full view now, and let's change up my pattern a little bit. Let's just look at this pattern for a second. Okay, so I'm on this one. I'm gonna add a little roll, and then I'm gonna add a little roll at the end here. Let's see. That's cool. So now I like that pattern with all the new settings, and I'm gonna drag that bad boy right into there again from my pattern little gripped button. It gave me that 2-bar loop that we talked about already, and I can go ahead and make loops out of that if I want more or less of it in my project. I Control L to turn them into real loops. Like I said, I kind of probably don't want to start the project. I might want to drop off here and then come back there. Maybe I'll create a new pattern for this one. Let's hear it again. Oh, nope, I gotta actually turn it off for a second. So really, now that I'm looking back at it, I don't really like it coming in on the second 4-bar set. I do like it when it all comes in at once. Like right here, it sounds pretty good because it kind of adds more life to it. And because it's kind of played in double time, we can definitely get a sense for it speeding up, even though we have not technically sped up the BPM. Now, let's say we don't like that, all right? We'll still use the Ultrabeat pattern. We'll take the first 2-bar loop that we used in Ultrabeat, and now let's use a function we did yesterday. Let's highlight these notes. Let's go to Functions, MIDI Transform, and let's make it half speed. And this is what it's going to do, is actually drop it out to be a 2-bar loop that I can make 4 bars out of. And now it's going to slow it down and match that, you know, nice laid back low speed of the original project. Here's what that sounds like. Kind of mimics the original drum pattern, the original speed of the acoustic drums we did. But that's just ways of manipulating MIDI notes. And why I just did all that is to show you the power that the MIDI editor has, this piano roll down here. I can take things from one area, like an Ultrabeat, I can create and design and customize. I can bring it into my project, and now with the powers of the software itself, I can manipulate it even further. It's like a multi-step process of getting something that you want and then changing it up and experimenting with different things to get eventually something new and maybe something better. In this case, I didn't really like the half speed. So I'm going to go back and put double speed on and loop it because I felt like it deserved this really upbeat tempo feel once I got to this point. Yeah, and then it goes back into its bridge to its chorus or whatever it is I'm going to do from there. You know, nothing crazy, just trying to create some variation, but being able to kind of continue with a goal or a composition in mind. Let's go back over to Ultrabeat for a second and see what else we can do over here, because this was fun, right? I love me some Ultrabeat. And guess what? It's free with Logic, so you can mess around all day, all night. So check this out. Let's go into our snare. And you can see that here is the step sequencer, same pattern. Let's push play and let you hear that. Oh, let's activate it too, that would help. So in here, you can actually see each note that's being hit just with the snare. So here's the snare. I selected it, just clicked on it. And then I was able to click on which beat of each bar that I wanted to drop on. I can actually have it hit earlier if I want. Let's do it ahead of the beat. And let's see what that sounds like. And that's a different performance. Going back to the beginning. Kind of like that freeze moment, right? Let's go one beat further than that, the original one. Let's hear what that sounds like. And coming on the downbeat, right? So these are different ways you can manipulate each individual instrument. You can use it down here using the sequencer. If you don't like it and you don't like this view down here, of course, like I said, you could just use full view. And full view brings you into the entire on-off switches of every single instrument. Now, we can customize this even further. You may ask, how can you customize this even further? Well, let me show you. This snare is very specific to the hip hop heavy kit. If I don't want this snare, I can actually change out the snare to be a different snare. So I can paste and do it, but here's some other things as well. So there are other things like a sine wave, a kick, a snare, a hat two, tom claps. I can turn this into claps. Let's see what happens. All I did was right click on the name. I went to INIT, which is, I guess, initial. And then I just picked from one of the other samples that are available. And then once I have the clap there, I can drag that in as my pattern. If I wanted to go to a sine wave, which is gonna sound weird, but that might work for like our transition of the software. I'm sorry, I'm not software, of the chorus to the bridge. I don't know why I said software. So cool ways to further customize your kit. And like I did before, even further, I can now change up pieces in here, changing pitch to different tones. So let's see, and that's for each note, by the way. I'll click on 21 here, and I'll change that pitch maybe to lower. Let's go to 13 and change that pitch back to higher. And let's change up this one to lower. And let's see how that sounds. It sound the same. Did I not activate it? No, I did not. I don't know why it's not activated. That's okay. Looks a little different here. Where's my power button? It is disabled. Somehow it's disabling my settings. Well, that's no problem. You can just go backwards and change it up later just to get it back. I think I took too many steps forward, and now I can't go back without erasing all that work I did. So, but yeah, I mean, each of these little pieces of the puzzle of the Iron Man chess piece has its own change. We did it before. You heard it in the hi-hats, how I gave a little tonal change when I messed around with the filters and played with the LFOs and changed the envelope a little bit. And if you watch it back on YouTube, you'll see how I just kind of messed around with it willy-nilly. But again, all these kits have their own settings as well. So if I just switch it over to a down tempo kit, yeah, there it goes. It's all unactivated now. And so this is what it sounds like with this kit. Ooh. And then there are banks, like effects banks. So this should be a lot of percussion and weird, like transient stuff. Sounds like someone's working in a mine. But yeah, I mean, just cool stuff to mess around with. So much sound, so many instruments, and your ability to fully customize anywhere between the notes and their time, the actual sound itself. If you don't like that this percussion here is in the mix, you could just mute it. It has its own little mute button. It's just the metal sound. Now, as much as I do like this interface and playing with that, I can do a lot more in the MIDI editor with this pattern. So to create that variation that you just heard live by muting things and doing things, it's much easier to drag that MIDI performance into here and then edit it in the MIDI window to get it to be that. Much easier that way. So again, the Ultrabeat Drummer, awesome thing for sound generation, awesome thing to add life and new sounds to your projects. It is MIDI based. It is sequencer based. You can either edit the sequences in the software or you can bring it into Logic itself and edit them right down in here using the same processes and methods that we did for all our other MIDI. All right. I think that's as far as I want to go today because it's already 11:02. Anybody have any questions pertaining to Varispeed or Ultrabeat? Varispeed or Ultrabeat? We'll take those questions now. Varispeed or Ultrabeat? Thank you for everyone coming in today. And since hopefully I have your ear, please make sure you do your work. You're going to be held responsible. If you don't hand something in, it will be a problem. There are mid-quarter reports coming home. Yeah. And if you have nothing handed in, it will say you were ultimately getting a 50 or less in this quarter 4. So please make sure you're keeping up with the work. If you haven't resubmitted your test, make sure you do that. Test from last week. Yep, that's right. Test from last week. What else? Anything? Mhm. 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 Well, again, if there's something that you missed because you were staring off into oblivion, or you literally just had your phone open because you want to make sure you know you were there, but you really paid zero attention to anything that's going on, please make sure that you rewatch this lesson on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and make sure that you go through the notes today, as well as um, make sure you're working on your projects. Project number 9 is out there. Project 8, B, C, D are all due still. Your quiz that you had to redo with your email address is on there. I promise on Friday it'll be a lot easier to take the quiz with the way I now know how to set it up, so I get the results without random names attached to you. Nothing else? Nothing else? No, nada, no, nada. All right. So tomorrow, 10 a.m., make sure you set your alarm to join the Zoom classroom tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow. We out.